fighting for the values that make Nebraska the good life. This is Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald on 1499.3 KLIN.
All right, pulling ads. We're pulling things here. One of the presidential candidates is pulling ads in a battleground state. Just released, and we'll talk about that in a minute, along with early voting numbers. They're in both here in Nebraska and across the country as we inch closer day by day to next Tuesday, November 5th. We're going to get to those two stories here in just a second. It's Talk and Text Tuesday, so if you have something on your mind you want to chat about, maybe you just want to call in and wish Wyatt a happy day, you can call or text the Hunt Irrigation Talk and Text line 402-479-1400. All right, well, let's get to this. Ad Impact, which tracks political ads, announced that Vice President Kamala Harris, her campaign pulled $2 million worth of ads from the swing state of North Carolina, which is pretty much about all their ad buys. I think it was around 2.7 total, but as of today, they pulled out $2 million.
Huh. Now, why is she pulling all these ads? I don't get that.
Well, if you either feel like you're losing the state or you really think you're going to win, then you turn around and you take that money and you pump it into another state.
I have a feeling I know what she's pumping it into, Doug.
What's that?
Fortnite. I kid you not. This just came over my wire a few minutes ago, and I had to take a step back when I read this because this was not on my 2024 bingo card. But Kamala Harris has released an official Fortnite map. You heard that right, folks.
I don't even know what Fortnite is.
And let's keep it that way. It's just a video game that's
what's the map? What's that?
I haven't read too much about it, but it's just Kamala Harris themed. This headline from Newsweek says Kamala Harris Fortnite map bans gun, has less than 400 people playing.
Oh, so no guns.
No guns and no players.
There you go. Well, a few.
Yeah.
Fortnite's for Harris.
Yeah, but Fortnite is that's the funny thing though. Fortnite is one of the biggest video games out there, and I can definitely see her audience she wants to reach. But then again, a majority of the players are little kids who can't even vote.
What's like Tim Walls playing the football game? Which game was that? The
Madden
football,
or was it NCAA? Probably
one of the two. And then he said, "Hey, they're calling a great play with the pick six." I'm like, "Oh, it's not a play."
Well, wasn't it funny how like Tim Walls and AOC were live streaming during Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden? I found that hilarious. Just those two faces in the top corner commenting on the whole thing. Like, okay,
they got to do what they got to do. There's all kinds of people out now. Bill Clinton's out. He sounds a little panicky at this point, saying that Trump's going to arrest him if he wins. I mean, it just goes down the list. Biden and Harris, their two teams are not getting along. Biden's trying to get on the campaign trail. Harris is dodging that. Harris will not go on. Well, she'll go on Joe Rogan's show as long as she has it her way.
Yep.
So she wants Rogan to go to him. I'm sure that's like, give me all the questions. Rogan's like, I'm not doing that. It was only going to be an hour.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to be totally filtered if it went through. But
I don't see Rogan filtering it. So
yeah, I love this quote by Trump. He's like, when he was on Kamala's podcast the other day, "You're not a Kamala person. You're not a Kamala person, Joe." I found it hilarious.
Look at you, and now you're a comedian too. I didn't know that. Impersonator and all. All right. Well, Nebraska Secretary of State Bob Evnen wants to remind all of us to return their early ballots to find a polling place for Election Day on November 5th. Here's the cool thing. We've got numbers so far, and these numbers coming in from across the country, but Nebraska's county election offices have received and accepted over 249,000 ballots, early voting ballots, out of the 363 early ballots that have been sent out. So that was a mouthful. And that includes over 46,000 ballots from Nebraskans who have voted in person. So the breakdown of this it goes like this. There were over 121,000 ballots sent out to Democrats. 89,000 have sent them back. 172,000 for Republicans. Over 117 have sent them back. and 64,000 sent out for non or minor. I've never heard minor before. Parties. 41,000 have sent them back in so far. So nationwide, though, we're at over 48 million and a half mail-in ballots have been turned in.
Wow.
So there's a lot. The battleground states I've been reading through, like Pennsylvania, they have way more Republican turnout this year than I think we probably ever had. And that's pretty interesting as well. Evan also wants you to know polling places are open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. next Tuesday. And as long as you're in line, you can vote on Election Day. Another thing you can do, and I did this today, is there are 3 different websites, and I've got them in our description for the show, both on social media, and it will be on our podcast when we upload that. You can track your ballot and view your sample ballot by going online. So I did that today, and my ballot was received because we did a mail-out ballot. Then I dropped it into what do you call those little things?
Ballot box.
Yeah, just a ballot box. One that wasn't on fire, by the way. And it did get received, so that's good. And then there's also another website where you can find election office locations and another website where you can find secure drop box locations. So I've got those links, those social media links, all 3 of those in the description for the show. Now, this is the first time for a general election that we've had voter ID in Nebraska. So make sure that when you go and vote in person, you make sure you have your driver's license, state ID, U.S. passport, military ID, tribal ID, hospital ID, political subdivision ID, or college or university ID. Those will all work as long as you're there with your ID. So, all right. Well, coming up later this week, tomorrow, we're going to have Senator Luann Linehan. I'm excited to have her in. She's going to talk about referendum 435 that's on the ballot. That's the school choice. I am against it. I don't think it impacts the schools or the unions like they're saying. So we're going to get her take on that. Thursday, Jeremy Kewen will be in. He's a Lancaster County Commissioner candidate, along with Larry Hudkins. Now, he's a 30-year commissioner. He's retired now. But get this, Krista Yoakum has a video out that says that Larry is endorsing her, but he's not. So we're gonna get to the bottom of that one to see if he's actually endorsing Krista or if he's endorsing Jeremy. Then on Friday, David Russell, who's running for commissioner candidate as well, there's a flyer that was put out by Chelsea Johnson's campaign, his opponent, that really has some false and misleading information on it. And I shared that with him, and he's like, what? And so he came out with a whole press release. We're going to have him in on Friday. He's going to clear that. We're going to find out if those allegations that she has on those mailers are true or not. And I tell you what, things are heating up. We're going to break some news here on the show here this week. Big announcement. We have election night coverage going for 2 hours here on Drive Time Nebraska on Tuesday night. We're going to take your calls. We want to find out what's going on at the polls. We're going to hear from candidates as they do, last appeals for your vote. And we're also going to be joined by former executive director of the Nebraska Republican Party and political consultant Bud Seinhorst, along with former Drive Time host and chairman of the Lancaster County Republican Party, Jack Riggins. All right, it's Talk and Text Tuesday. You can call or text in the Hunt Irrigation Talk and Text line, 402-479-1400. How about this? Are Americans too sensitive in today's society? Do we get too offended too easily? We're going to look at that as some of the comedians, both for the Trump and Harris campaigns, kind of irritated and ruffles some feathers. We're going to find out if people are just being a little too sensitive. Plus, your chance to play Fantasy Huskers is right around the corner. Thanks so much for listening to Drive Time Nebraska.
Your voice, your station.
Help the ones at home first,
The conversations that matter to you.
Our infrastructure is crumbling.
1499.3 KLIN, the voice of Lincoln.
Whose team is Dan Osborne on? The D.C. Democrats. Osborne says he loves Bernie Sanders. He promised to vote to pass their Green New Deal, which would destroy farming and ranching in Nebraska. And Osborne is on record saying he would reward illegal aliens entering our state with amnesty and Social Security benefits.
There definitely needs to be a clear path to citizenship. Just give him a damn Social Security card.
The Green New Deal would cost us our jobs. Illegal immigration costs us our security. If Dan Osborne wins, we lose. But Deb Fischer and President Trump are on our team. Deb will work with President Trump to secure our border. and she'll fight the left's big government agenda threatening our jobs and freedoms. Trump's choice and Nebraska's voice. Deb Fisher for Senate.
I'm Deb Fisher. I'm running for Senate, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Fisher Victory Fund. Join Deb Fisher's team. Give today. FisherVictoryFund.com.
Discover the difference with Oak Electric, a local woman-owned business offering premium electrical service at competitive prices. With over 25 years of experience, their master electrician is one of Lincoln's top experts. Their small, dedicated team focuses on quality control and safety for your family or business. Experience the premium customer service you deserve. When life happens, call Oak Electric at 402-440-5969 because they always answer the phone. Oak Electric, where quality and safety come first.
You may have heard about Monolith, how right here in Nebraska, we're producing low-emission carbon black for tires across North America. How we'll soon be providing farmers with locally made fertilizer to reduce our reliance on foreign imports. How we're investing hundreds of millions in multiple Nebraska facilities. You might have heard Monolith is changing the world. We're not. You are. Along with many other Nebraskans in high-paying jobs that support families and communities. Monolith, Nebraska made.
There's a lot of confusion around women's health care on your November ballot. To protect women and children, you have to vote on two separate initiatives. Vote for Initiative 434 and vote no on Initiative 439. That's voting for, and voting no on 9. Vote for clear, scientific, compassionate standards that protect women and doctors. Vote no on 9 against vague, unscientific laws that invite government intrusion. Vote for to preserve parents' right to know when their daughters are in crisis. Vote no on 9 against care by those who aren't licensed physicians. Vote for to protect patients, women, and children across Nebraska. On your ballot, remember, protecting women and children and keeping patients safe takes 2 votes. Vote for Initiative 434 and vote no on Initiative 439. That's 4 and no on 9. Paid for by Protect Women and Children.
You're listening to Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald. Disagree with Doug? The guests? The topic? Call or text 402-479-1400 now to be a part of the show. KLIN weather brought to you by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical.
Partly cloudy, warm, and windy this evening with the temperature dropping into low 70s by midnight. After midnight, mostly cloudy with a 20% chance of rain, low in the low 60s. Wednesday, mostly cloudy and breezy with showers and thunderstorms likely. Some storms could be severe. Temperature falling from the low 60s to the low 50s. From the 1011 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Brandon Rector.
KLIN Time Saver Traffic, delivered by Paisanos, Lincoln's best brick oven pizza.
Pushing through the drive time hour, I want you to keep in mind there are several downtown street and building projects. Make sure to watch for lane shifts and lane closures. As well, Northwest 12th Street from West Commerce to West Upland is closed for railroad track and crossing repair and removal. If you see anything out there, make sure to give the Time Saver Traffic hotline a call, 402-479-1414. Keeping you moving with Time Saver Traffic. I'm Chase Porter.
Tackling the issues that truly matter to Nebraskans head on. With the occasional targeting call, this is Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald, 1499.3 KLIN.
Well, there's a brand new book coming out from a local author that I think you're definitely going to want to get. I'm excited to announce this. The title is Veteran-Led Leadership Lessons from the Trenches. It's by John Barry, CEO of Barry Law and a former U.S. Army platoon leader. And he's drawing off of his military experience, and he's teaching how discipline, urgency, and efficiency help businesses thrive. So if you own a business, or it's probably for leadership in general, for your own self or your family, as we approach Veterans Day, there's no better time to learn about that from a veteran who's leading in both the courtroom and the boardroom as well. So Veteran-Led is the perfect guide for business leaders and veterans alike. You can pre-order your copy. Just go to barrylaw.com. Do that right now. Go to barrylaw.com. Get your pre-order in. And I think we're going to be talking to John, I think in about a week and a half. And he's going to kind of give us the rundown of the book itself. And I understand. I'm an author myself. You know, writing a book isn't the easiest process in the world, but getting it published is pretty cool and gives you a great opportunity to get your message out. So again, go to barrylaw.com to get your pre-order copy in your hands when it comes out. All right. Well, yesterday we had Senator Pete Ricketts on. He joined us to talk about the abortion initiatives, false and misleading ads, which we're going to touch upon this week, and the Fisher-Osborne race, and so much more. If you missed a podcast of that show, go to KLAN.com or your favorite podcast service. All right. Well, yesterday we touched a little bit on this, not a lot because we didn't have a lot of time, but Trump and Harris are campaigning over the weekend. Big rallies, at least from what I saw. Trump was at Madison Square Garden. He had over 20,000 people in there. Speakers like J.D. Vance, Melania, his wife, Ultimate Fighting CEO Dana White, Hulk Hogan, who was just in Lincoln. Was it last week? Yeah, promoting his beer, American beer. Elon Musk, Tucker Carlson, so many other people. But there was some controversy surrounding both campaigns. The first one was from comedian Tony Hinchcliffe about being racist. Now, I did watch his segment, and it made me a little uncomfortable, honestly, especially for that type of rally. It just did. And I don't know who put him on. Now, here's the thing. He is a insult comedian. That's what he's known for. As a matter of fact, I saw a highlight clip of him. He was the one, if you remember seeing these clips at Tom Brady's roast, where he was just going down the line. He was insulting everybody. It didn't matter what color, race, socioeconomic, sexual preference, whatever, man. He was just roasting away. And so that's just what he does. And so if that's the case, Wyatt, if that's the case, and I was in charge of that rally, I probably would have questioned if we should have had him on.
Yeah.
How did you feel? You're 23. I mean, we're going to talk about sensitivity here in a minute, but what did you think?
Yeah, I did think he kind of pushed the line just a little bit. Now, I'm a guy who loves his edgy comedy, all that kind of stuff, but I feel like the atmosphere wasn't right for that kind of speech, because I feel like political rallies, especially being this close to the election, there should be some sort of professional demeanor to it. And I felt like he really just thought that he had a big platform so he could just go all out, which I think kind of took back from the rally. And there were other parts of the rally too where they thought like the opening acts were too long, and so there were a few factors that just didn't help his case, but he could have definitely toned it down a little bit during his set.
And you had a good point earlier where we were talking about this, saying it's one thing to do that at a roast, right? Because you expect that.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of it.
Yeah, like at a roast, nothing is off guard.
Especially when all celebrities are there. I mean, that place was packed.
Yeah, and Donald Trump himself should know about it. I mean, he's been, one of his roasts is probably one of the most viewed on the internet. Like, it's a great roast. So,
but yeah, so that caused a lot of controversy. Then we had Kamala in Houston with her rally. Now, here the controversy with this, well, there was another event that was for Kamala that had a comedian. We'll talk about that in a second. But her Houston event, Beyonce was supposed to perform. So they did all this promotion that Beyonce is going to perform, pack the house, and that's what she's been doing with these rallies, is bringing in these artists. Beyonce, well, she performed, but literally she just spoke for about 2 minutes. That was it. And then once she got done and people realized she wasn't performing, people started leaving.
Yeah.
But not to be outdone, Willie Nelson was there.
Yeah.
So they got to hear Willie at least. But then there was another event for her, comedian George Lopez. And I've got a clip of this too. Well, maybe we'll play it here in just a minute. But he had his own race joke.
Yeah.
About Mexicans.
Now, here's the thing about that someone pointed out on Twitter, is that Mexicans love to poke fun at other Mexicans. And you know, I've being from Colorado, there's a big Latino community there, and I had a few friends I went to high school with who would kind of, you know, jab at some of their other peers who were like that. So it's not, I'd say that one isn't so uncommon compared to Tony's bit at Trump's rally. So I can kind of give him a little space, because that one, George Lopez didn't even feel that bad. You could even feel the crowd feel a little lighter.
I thought it was good.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Tony was like, it wasn't just a joke, it was vulgar.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a couple of comments that were just vulgar. So, yeah. All right. Well, we've probably beat that one too much here. But here's the thing. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, I want to play J.D. Vance. He got asked today it was today or yesterday, maybe, about the jokes. If it was a great way to kick off the final week going into the campaign, we'll hear his response after we take this quick break. Plus, it's your chance to play Fantasy Huskers right around the corner. Get ready to text in the keyword, which I'll give you here in just a minute. Cities from across the state, they're listening to Drive Time Nebraska. We'll be right back.
The conversations that matter.
Close the border now.
Led by you.
It just makes sense.
This is 1499.3 KLIN, the voice of Lincoln.
Buying silver and gold can be overwhelming. Lincoln Coin and Bullion's knowledgeable team guides newer folks through the process, setting aside 1 hour for first appointments.
Democrat dark money groups are trying to buy the U.S. Senate, backing far-left, deceptive Dan Osborne. The leaders we trust most know Deb Fischer is Nebraska's choice. Here's Senator Pete Ricketts.
Deb Fischer is my partner in the Senate, tough on the border and delivering conservative results. Re-electing Deb will mean Republican control so we can get America back on track. I fully endorse Deb Fischer.
Former Governor Dave Heineman.
Deb Fischer delivers for Nebraska. When I was governor, Deb was one of my closest partners, helping pass what was at the time the largest tax cut in Nebraska history.
President Donald Trump.
Vote for Deb Fischer. She has my complete and total endorsement. She will continue to make you proud.
Conservative leader Deb Fischer, Nebraska's choice for Senate. Vote on November 5th. Paid for by ESA Fund, which is responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. ESA-fund.com.
Does your business need quick, competitive financing for heavy machinery, trucks, or other equipment? Currency is here to help. Whether you're financing construction equipment, farm equipment, trucks, trailers, or any other big-ticket item, Currency will automatically find the best rates. Currency facilitates loans for up to $500,000 with repayment terms up to 72 months. It's fast, easy, and free to use. Visit gocurrency.com and apply today.
As our voice on the University of Nebraska Board of Regents, Republican Rob Schaefer is getting the job done. Schaefer is working to keep tuition affordable, hold the line on spending, and ensure the university better reflects our conservative values. That's why the Nebraska Farm Bureau and U.S. Senators Deb Fischer and Pete Ricketts have endorsed Rob Schaefer. For experienced leadership and conservative common sense, vote Republican Rob Schaefer for Regent.
Paid for by Rob Schaefer for Board of Regents.
Senate candidate Dan Osborne, like many of the D.C. Democrats backing his campaign, supports illegal immigrants. Osborne says,
there definitely needs to be a clear path to citizenship.
And that means giving amnesty to 11 million illegal immigrants already in the U.S. Osborne also wants to give illegals U.S. taxpayer-funded Social Security. And he sounds serious.
Just give him a damn Social Security card already.
Dan Osborne sure sounds a lot like his Democrat friends, like Kamala Harris.
We can create an earned pathway to citizenship.
Joe Biden.
A pathway to citizenship.
Bernie Sanders.
A path toward citizenship.
And Osborne.
A clear path to citizenship.
Democrat in sheep's clothing Dan Osborne and his Democrat friends. Just plain wrong and too liberal for Nebraska.
Just give him a damn Social Security card already.
Senate Leadership Fund paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. www.senateleadershipfund.org.
You're listening to Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald. More of the show coming up on 1499.3 KLIN. KLIN weather brought to you by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical.
Partly cloudy, warm, and windy this evening with the temperature dropping into low 70s by midnight. After midnight, mostly cloudy with a 20% chance of rain, low in the low 60s. Wednesday, mostly cloudy and breezy with showers and thunderstorms likely. Some storms could be severe. Temperature falling from the low 60s to the low 50s. From the 1011 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Brandon Rector.
KLIN Time Saver Traffic, delivered by Paisanos, Lincoln's best brick oven pizza.
Rounding off the drive time hour, keep in mind we have several downtown street and building projects. You'll want to make sure to watch for lane shifts and lane closures. Otherwise, most of the city is slowing down and flowing smoothly on the way home. You might find a couple sticking points in main arterials and intersections but nothing out of the ordinary. If you see anything out there, give the Time Saver Traffic hotline a call, 402-479-1414. Lincoln is listening to Time Saver Traffic.
Training threes on the issues that truly matter to Nebraskans, with the occasional technical or two. This is Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald, 1499.3 KLIN.
Well, let's play some Fantasy Huskers, should we? Let's put your name in the hat to possibly win some Valentino's and Best of Big Red gift cards. $50 each. Pretty cool. Keyword today is West, W-E-S-T. We want you to text West in right now to 402-479-1400 for your chance to win. West. All right. Huskers playing UCLA coming up this weekend. It's going to be an afternoon game, which will be nice. We've all lamented about the Ohio State game. It was so close. Talked to Kenny Larrabee earlier today. And he takes pictures, by the way, for KLIN, for a lot of our stations here. So any of those football pictures that you see in the stadium, Kenny's the guy, and he gets some incredible shots. So anyway, he was talking about this weekend possibly being some rain there. So he said, I can make some for some cool picks with those players. So pregame's at 10:30, kickoff at 2:30. You can hear it right here on KLIN. And then a big match with Wisconsin against the Husker volleyball team. It's going to be Friday night. Pregame at 7, first serve at 7 o'clock. I hear tickets for that are going in the hundreds right now. Dang. People wanting to get in to watch that. So that's been going to be really good. All right. Well, we were talking about in the last segment just about the comedians for both the Harris and the Trump rallies and events. And J.D. Vance, vice president pick for President Trump, was asked about that specific thing and really talking about, are we too sensitive as a society? Is our culture today just like get too sensitive on too many things? Or if you bring up anything to somebody, get mad at you. If you say something wrong. It's so funny because I got a friend who lives on the West Coast, and there'll be some things that we say that are normal that she'll be like, you can't say that. I'm like, it's what we say. So it's even different in each part of the country. So everybody gets offended with their own little thing. So let's hear J.D. Vance's response to this question.
Last night during the pre-program, a comedian made several racist jokes that the campaign has since distanced itself from. You've talked before about former President Trump being able to unite the country. I'm curious, as we are entering this last stretch of campaigning, this final week, is that the right tone to have started this final 8 days with?
Well, first of all, I think that we've got to focus, Alec, I appreciate the question, but I think that we as a country, and I think that includes the press, it includes the Kamala Harris campaign, and it certainly includes our campaign, the way that we unite the country is to talk about the issues the American people care the most about. And what we're doing over the next 8 days is we're focused, laser focused, on how we're going to close the border, how we're going to make American lives more affordable again, how we're going to bring down the cost of housing. That's what we should be talking. I think a lot of Americans are sick of the distractions and sick of the BS. They want our candidates to talk about how they're going to solve the people's problems. And that's what we ought to do. Now, I've heard about the joke. I haven't actually seen the joke that you mentioned, but I think that it's telling that Kamala Harris's closing message is essentially that all of Donald Trump's voters are Nazis and you should get really pissed off about a comedian telling a joke. That is not the message of a winning campaign. And most importantly, it's not the message of a person who's fit to be the president of the United States of America. And my own view on this is, look, again, I haven't seen the joke. Maybe it's a stupid racist joke, as you said. Maybe it's not. I haven't seen it. I'm not going to comment on the specifics of the joke. But I think that we have to stop getting so offended at every little thing in the United States of America. I'm so over it. I mean, somebody sent me a couple days ago, and they were kind of pissed off about it. Maybe it was yesterday, of this comedian George Lopez, who had made a joke at a Kamala Harris rally. And he basically, the point was, he was trying to make a joke. It was against Mexicans, and I forget the exact context. But if you wanted to look at it a particular way, you could say that was a racist joke. And this person, in fact, was encouraging me to sort of, blow this up and make this about how Kamala Harris doesn't respect Latinos. And my response was, can we all just take a chill pill and take a joke from time to time? This is ridiculous. Our country was built by frontiersmen who conquered the wilderness. We're not going to restore the greatness of American civilization if we get offended at every little thing. Let's have a sense of humor and let's have a little fun and let's go win in 8 days. God bless you all. Thank you.
There you go. So there's his thought in regards to that, which I thought was interesting. And it goes back to the whole thing. Wyatt, now you're 23.
Yeah.
Your culture's farther removed from me than, it's about 30 years or so. Are we too sensitive? I mean, you've grown up in this. You've grown up in this politically correct, woke environment where if anybody gets offended, you call it out, you get upset. It's like at that, I think you said it was a football game or something this weekend where somebody was wearing a Palestine hat and who knows what happened beforehand, but then another guy got that guy kicked out because he was wearing the hat, because they get offended. And then I saw another thing where somebody was wearing a rainbow flag around them and another guy went and grabbed it because he was upset and offended and then got arrested. And then people saying all this stuff. It's both campaigns.
Yeah, Doug, you can literally go to any news site, any source of news this week, and you can pull out 5 examples of someone getting offended by something. And it can go both ways anyway. And I liked what I heard from JD Vance. I thought he was spot on in that take of just not only of just we need to just loosen up and just not be so tight on each other like that, but also just, especially towards the last days of this campaign, it's just unprofessional to call out those little things like that. I really think that he really wants to focus on the issues that his campaign is trying to express, and that what Kamala is doing is just taking these little jabs, trying to go off point in any way, shape, or form is what she thinks is going to win her the presidency in the next few days.
Out of Trump, Walz, and Harris, and Vance. Vance, to me, at least from the way he carries himself and speaks, is probably the most presidential, in my opinion.
Oh, no, I definitely agree on that. He definitely has the demeanor for it. I definitely, some of his political views might be a little bit too extreme for my liking personally, but he definitely does have the demeanor I trust for someone to run this country. And I think that's going to be good for Trump because that could definitely tone Trump back in a few ways. And it seems like those two are really clicking off of each other, which I think is going to help in the long term. That chemistry is really going to come in handy when they do have to face some of these extreme conditions that are possibly foreseen in our future in the next few years for the world.
Some people on social media asking about the George Lopez joke. So let me go ahead and play that for you. It's real quick. It's not like a really long thing.
Donald Trump said he was going to build a wall. And George Lopez said, you better build it in one day because if you leave that material out there overnight.
That was it. Hey.
That was it.
You have to look at facial expressions. I mean, that helps with it as well. But obviously, you know what he's alluding to. So
yeah, that's a pretty loose one compared to the one set at Trump's rally, I should say.
It was very loose. All right. Well, let's keep moving forward. Let's take a break here. We're still playing Fantasy Huskers. When we come back, we're going to talk about polls. There's a lot of polls going on right now to find out where our candidates are. Also, Steve Bannon. He is a bulldog. He's back in the race. We're going to be talking about that in a second as well. All right. All you have to do is text in the word West, W-E-S-T, to play Fantasy Huskers and your chance to win 402-479-1400 before you pick a winner. Thanks so much for listening on your drive home. We'll be back in a couple minutes.
The best way to interact with KLIN shows is through the Hunt Irrigation Talk and Text line at 402-479-1400. You're listening to Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald. Sports Nightly is next on 1499.3 KLIN.
This is Independent Dan Osborne, candidate for U.S. Senate in Nebraska, and I approve this message. Paid for by Osborne for Senate. I'm a Navy and Nebraska National Guard veteran, industrial mechanic, and lifelong independent. I only got involved in politics when corporate greed threatened my coworkers at the factory. Across Nebraska, people aren't getting a fair shake. Costs need to be lowered. The border needs to be secured. We need a farm bill to be passed, but the government keeps wasting our taxpayers' dollars. Deb Fischer, she's a part of the problem. While in office, she's gotten 10 times richer, and the debt has doubled. She hasn't had a public town hall since 2017. She signed a pledge to only serve 2 terms and is now breaking that promise. That might be normal in Washington, but that doesn't make it right. It's why I ran for Senate. It's why I've been a registered independent for over 20 years. It's why we're not taking money from corporate special interests, and why I won't be beholden to a party boss, only to the people of Nebraska.
The following bulletin is paid for by Retired Americans PAC. Dateline Omaha. Election Day 2024. Nebraskans head to the polls. Hundreds of thousands of them rely on the Social Security and Medicare they earned. Do they know Senator Deb Fischer voted to raise the Social Security retirement age, cut benefits, and slash Medicare? That she voted against capping insulin costs at $35? Nebraska's seniors are asking, who will fight for our financial security and the benefits we paid for? Dan Osborne, veteran, works for a living, independent candidate for U.S. Senate. Unlike Deb Fischer, he's not funded by the drug lobby and big corporations. On November 5th, it's your turn to vote to protect Social Security and Medicare. Vote Dan Osborne. Retired Americans PAC paid and is responsible for the content of this advertising. RetiredAmericansPAC.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Whose team is Dan Osborne on? The D.C. Democrats. Osborne says he loves Bernie Sanders. He promised to vote to pass their Green New Deal, which would destroy farming and ranching in Nebraska. And Osborne is on record saying he would reward illegal aliens entering our state with amnesty and Social Security benefits.
There definitely needs to be a clear path to citizenship. Just give him a damn Social Security card.
The Green New Deal would cost us our jobs. Illegal immigration costs us our security. If Dan Osborne wins, we lose. But Deb Fischer and President Trump are on our team. Deb will work with President Trump to secure our border. And she'll fight the left's big government agenda, threatening our jobs and freedoms. Trump's choice and Nebraska's voice. Deb Fischer for Senate.
I'm Deb Fischer. I'm running for Senate, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Fisher Victory Fund. Join Deb Fischer's team. Give today. FisherVictoryFund.com.
You're listening to Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald. More of the show coming up on 1499.3 KLIN. KLIN weather brought to you by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical.
Partly cloudy, warm, and windy this evening with the temperature dropping into low 70s by midnight. After midnight, mostly cloudy with a 20% chance of rain, low in the low 60s. Wednesday, mostly cloudy and breezy with showers and thunderstorms likely. Some storms could be severe. Temperature falling from the low 60s to the low 50s. From the 1011 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Brandon Rector.
Now, back to more Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald on 1499.3 KLIN.
Had to pull up our text and phone lines there. Got people calling and texting in. I want to get to them here in just a second. Congratulations to Cindy. First and foremost, we want to celebrate her and her win in the Fantasy Huskers for today. All you have to do is text back the answer to this question, which I do not like. When will the first turnover of the game occur? Unless it's UCLA, then that'd be great. Just boom. First, second in the kickoff. We're going to kick off. They're going to drop it. We'll pick it up, run it in for the touchdown. All right, that sounds good to me. Cindy, your name's now thrown in the hat to possibly win some Valentinos and Best of Big Red. $50 to each. Tune in tomorrow morning. Your next chance to win with LNK Today with Jack and Friends. And then tomorrow afternoon right here again on Drive Time Nebraska. I want to thank our title sponsor, Lincoln Coin and Bullion, for taking care of us, taking care of me over the last over decade. Purchasing gold, silver, platinum, and palladium. You can purchase gold, silver here in Lincoln and Nebraska. No sales tax, which is really nice. Also, what got passed this year as well, no capital gains tax on gold and silver that you sell here in Nebraska. Now, federal, that's different, but at least in the state, that's true. If you have any platinum or palladium, gold or silver that you have that you want to sell back, or maybe you have some sterling flatware as well, call and contact them. And if you're just interested in getting more information, call them up, 402-327-2853 for a personal appointment. And if you want to see everything that they have to offer or that you can purchase from there or that they can order, go to their website, lincolncoinandbullion.com. All right, well, coming up for the rest of the week, Senator Luann Linehan's going to be in tomorrow. We're going to talk about referendum 435, the school choice bill. I'm curious to talk to her again. We had her in here. We talked about the first time when she was working at the legislature. This is obviously her last year, so she's not running for re-election. She's term limited out, but we'll have her in to the studio and talk to her all hour, which will be really fun. I like talking to her. And then on Thursday, Jeremy Kewen, Lancaster County Commissioner candidate, and Larry Hudkins, a 30-year commissioner of the past. They're going to be in the studio. We're going to talk about just the local races, how important they are, county commissioner race. Also, Jeremy's opponent, Krista, has said that she's endorsed by Larry Hudkins. So we're going to ask him tomorrow who he's endorsing. We'll find out. We'll break that news here. And then on Friday, David Russell, who is having some issues with his opponent as well, Lancaster County Commissioner candidate. He's running against Chelsea Johnson. And she sent out a mailer that it's pretty negative against David, accusing him of a few things. We're going to ask him if those are true or not. The other thing that's interesting about this is we had the caller call in. Didn't want to be on the air, but they're driving, so they were being very careful. So we appreciate it. Chris Lofgren would give you a gold star. But anyway, just was very frustrated, it sounded like, in regards to all of the out-of-state funding that are coming in for the candidates. In specific, you talked about the Osborne race against Senator Deb Fischer. That's one thing, because there's a lot of money coming in from out of state. But the other thing that we have to be aware of is that there's money coming in from out of the state for our local races. These county commissioner races, out-of-state money. That's just the way it is. So this election's all elections are important, but this election is really important. What we've tried to do here is bring on candidates so you can get to really know who they are and find out what their scoop is. So we've got state legislature races going on where they're supported by outside candidates. Obviously, the Senate with Fisher and Bacon, Congressman Bacon and Flood. It's just money everywhere. Wyatt, if you and I had just had that money, just think all the good that we could do if we just took all the campaign money and said, you know what, you can't spend any campaign money. Give it to Wyatt and Doug. We'll go out there and do some good with it.
Dude, the amount of beer I would buy.
I had to go back to that. Speaking of money, Raina messaged in on social media. She had said that, and I'm assuming this is what it says. I think there's a misspelled word. It says she paid him to say that. And I think that's in response to the George Lopez clip that we played. But Raina, you bring up a great point. I guarantee you, they all got paid to be at those events. So when you have George Lopez at an event doing his thing, he's getting paid to do his thing. When you have Tony Hinchcliffe at Trump's event, he's getting paid to do his thing. It all goes back to who's in charge and who's putting these people on the stage. But anyway, I thought that was a great comment, great insight going back to all this funding that we're seeing. Speaking of the election, we're going to get into some polls here. Why? I don't know if I think I touched upon this a little bit yesterday. Senator Deb Fischer, speaking of her and their race against Dan Osborne, there was an independent poll that was released yesterday. Now, Osborne came out with his own poll, but he paid for it. And it said he was up by 2%. I have a problem with that when you're paying for your own, because obviously if I'm paying for a poll and I'm probably spending thousands of dollars, the pollsters are probably going to want to make me feel good, so it didn't feel like I wasted my money.
Yeah, that seems pretty biased to me, Doug. I'm not gonna lie. I would take that poll with a grain of salt.
But when you have the New York Times doing a poll, right? New York Times, which a little more left-leaning, and Siena College, I don't know much about them. Their poll in regards to the Fisher-Osborne race across the state, they have Fisher leading by 2 points, 48 to 46%. Now, here's the thing that is weird. Of their polling, President Trump has 90% of the Republicans saying that they're going to vote for him. And they show 80% of the Republicans, if I'm reading this right, voting for Fisher. So Dan Osborne's doing a good job of converting, because when we look at this here, it says the polls, Osborne's capturing 86% of Democrats, 19% of registered Republicans, and 64% of nonpartisan or third-party voters. He's doing a good job of convincing Republicans and independents to vote for him. My concern with that is you have to look, and we've done this. You've got to look at what is his record? What does he stand for? What has he said? Does he stand up for conservative values or not? And for these 19% of at least just the registered Republicans, I would encourage you to take another look. Do some digging on your own, because that surprises me that they're willing to switch that from a Senate race, but yet still willing, more of them, to vote for Trump. I thought it would kind of be the other way around, but I guess not. Then if you're looking nationwide, we've got Trump and Harris, according to their polls. Trump's leading the state of Nebraska in general by 15 points. Harris is leading in District 2 by 12 points. So that's pretty typical. She'll probably get that electoral vote as we look down the road. Nationally, let me pull up Real Clear Politics. I wanted to touch upon this too. So nationally, let's look at the polls right now. And this is interesting too, because if you think of back in 2016, they said that Hillary Clinton was just leading by quite a bit all across the board. And Trump wasn't. Obviously, Trump flipped that. Same thing, especially in the popular vote with Trump and Biden. Biden won the electoral, but you look at popular numbers, and Trump had won more Republican votes than ever. I think more votes in history. But if you're looking right now, as far as Real Clear Politics, it takes a lot of national polls and puts them into an average. Trump is leading by 0.4%. And in the top battleground states, he's leading by over 1% right now. And they're giving him a better chance to win than Harris. 62% if you're a betting man, by the way, which I thought was interesting. The other thing, too, is he's leading in all but, let's see, the battleground states here. He's up in 1, 2, 3, 4. He's up in 5 of the 6 battleground states that they're showing here. Harris is leading in Michigan. But he's up by over 1% in North Carolina, where she's pulling her money. So I think somebody was telling me that she might be putting that obviously into another state, which makes total sense. So anyway, just some interesting things. The other interesting thing that I thought was interesting today is Steve Bannon got out of jail. He got out of jail today, considers himself a political prisoner by the Biden administration and that whole group, Merrick Garland, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi. Man, he railed on Nancy Pelosi today. I don't know if you watched any of that, but he is on fire, and he's out with a vengeance. I think probably rightfully so. And there's going to be some interesting things coming out of his mouth as he moves forward. Now, one of the things he said today, which I thought was interesting, is he said, in the prison population, the male population, where he said none of them liked Kamala Harris and that they were all going for Trump. And he says, if that's the case, kind of speaks volumes. All right. Okay. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. We appreciate that. A big announcement for Tuesday night, next week, a week from today, November 5th, election night. We'll be going from 5 to 7 right here on Drive Time Nebraska. We'll be taking your calls and talking to a lot of candidates. So we'll be joined by Bud Seinhorst and Jack Riggins. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. And thanks to my producer, Wyatt. There's only 82,200 seconds left until we see each other again, my friends. Please seize everyone. Have a great night. Sports Nightly is up next.
From the Momo Pizzeria and Ristorante Studios, we are the voice of Lincoln. KLIN Lincoln. KDVK HD3 Lincoln. K257GN Lincoln is 1499.3 KL.